Hi, welcome to the Black Experience Japan's Melanated Files. The purpose of this series is to highlight the black people living in Japan. Who are they?
My name is Danielle, I'm from Jamaica. Not a thing. I don't have any particular draw to Japan itself. It was just a job. The job opportunity drew me here. So the job opportunity drew me to Japan. I'm an English teacher. Not particularly pertaining to Japan. I have personal dreams, but...
Do you want to divulge or disclose those?
I'm planning to do a yoga teacher training in August in India. I don't know if I'll stay in Japan after that or if I'll move on, but that's kind of where I'm heading. I would say it's average. Average because the highs and the lows balance out. So of course there are highs. You have many good things about being in Japan. It's safe, which is really a big deal, right? Which you don't really understand it until you kind of live in a really safe place. And then of course the lows, being away from your family, you know, in a foreign country. Yeah, so I would just say just average. My experience has been, but still positive. Okay, I have a good story for that one. So last week, this happened last week. Last week I went to my schools. You know, when they have elementary school, they open the school and all the parents come in. So I went to that, and this mother and her son were there, and I was just observing the class, and her little son was like he was looking at me and pointing, and he was like, "Kao chairo," but much louder than that. And the mother was like, "Shh, shh, shh." So basically the boy was saying like, her face is brown, and I think that's definitely the funniest thing that has ever happened to me. Another little child called me Chairo Sensei, like brown sensei. But those are the only two stories I have about being black. Literally the only two stories, and I think they're quite funny. Alright, so the best advice I've ever gotten is don't listen to what people say, watch what people do. I think that this is very important, especially for me, because I live in a foreign country, and you know, like, people can say things, but I think in reality people have very good intentions when they say things, but the follow through sometimes is, you know.
So actions speak louder than words.
That is it. That's it right there. Actions speak louder than words. Yeah, like, and I guess, you know, like, when you're on your own, you really notice it, because people will say things to you, you know, like, and that's all you really have, you know, which is a person's word. But at the end of the day, you can't follow it. You can't watch that. You just have to watch what people do. What a person does is who they are, not what they say, what they do. I would tell people in the world to learn to love themselves fully. This advice is probably every situation is different, because you read a lot of things on the internet, so you may have preconceptions, but the reality is you have no idea what your experience will be like, right? So the hair products thing, like I said, like I was just saying, like, if you need certain products, you should come to Japan with them, because they're just either hard to get or very expensive. That's what I would say. Like, I would say that if you have any particular products that you really like, then you should definitely bring them, and bring a lot, because it's like, obviously you've probably read this, but it's really true. It's unlikely that you're going to find it here. Also, they have products here, obviously, right? They really do. But in my opinion, they're just not as good. I know it goes so that way, but it's true. Like, in my opinion, they're just not as good. Like, you know, the little eyebrow pencil them where you can get cheap in Jamaica, like those kind of things. They have them here, and they're more expensive, and they're not as good, in my opinion. And obviously also, like, if you need stuff to match your skin tone, like that goes without saying, right? So walk with those things. In terms of like dating, me myself personally, like, I don't know, it could just be a personal thing. I don't really have anything to say because there's just nothing. Like it's just a big blank. So like, I don't know. I know that there are people who come here and, you know, they get married to like Japanese people or even other foreigners or the Jamaicans, but personally for me it's just nothing. But again, that could just be every individual thing. But one thing is for sure, like if you're a woman and you're from a country like Jamaica where, you know, men call to you and, you know, people, like, you just walk down the street and like a bag of man just call to you and then just make you feel good. Don't tell no lie, they make you feel good. It not gonna happen in Japan. Like, you need to walk with your bag of self-confidence, cause nobody not gonna call to you and nobody not gonna ever tell you say you look good. So you need to just have that. Like, you just have your self-confidence and have your self-esteem handy, because that external validation is not going to exist. And you may think that it's nice, but in reality, it's like a mental switch that has to happen, right? So just be aware of that. Well, I love my job. Like, really, I love the school that I work at. I love the students. I love the working hours. I think that they're quite chill. Like you get me. Like it's not a hard kind of job. As being someone who taught before, like, you know, my working hours are less. People say this, but you really do have to be flexible. Like, you may have in your mind this idea of, I want to impart, you know, like the proper thing, but you sort of have to keep the big picture in mind. Like, you may not teach kids how to do like everything right, but you may teach them something and they can build on it later, you know. So like, really and truly, like teaching English here, it's kind of challenging, because maybe if you're passionate about like teaching and learning, you would really want to, you know, impact them. But the truth is, you're only going to see your students for 1 hour, right, per week, and it's not a lot of time. So just do your best, and yeah, do your best. So on Instagram, danfincie, DANFINCIE.
Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see weekly videos about the Black experience in Japan, feel free to subscribe to this channel. If you know someone that would like to be featured, or if you yourself would like to be featured, send us a message on our Facebook page at The Black Experience Japan, or send us a tweet on Twitter at TheBlackXJP. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.